Good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope you are having a wonderful Wednesday morning, and I hope you had a very productive week. Today, we're going to actually have a special guest interview. It's pre-recorded by Gary Keller and a gentleman named David, who's going to actually share what he did to take his business from being a really rocky start at the beginning to being one of the most powerful businesses in Keller Williams. And so I want to share that with you. It's about 30 minutes long, but we're going to break it down after it's over to talk about what we really took away from this and how we can use some of the things that David Huffaker says in our own businesses to help us move forward, because not everyone has a glamorous start at the beginning of real estate. And a matter of fact, some people have a really rough start. But David is going to share what he did to overcome that and how he's able to be so successful today. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to listen to Life Moments with David Huffaker and Gary Keller.
Hi, David. How are you?
Good, Gary. How are you?
I'm very good. So thank you for joining me for this edition of Life Moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So take a second and just tell us a little about yourself, David.
Yeah. So run a team here in just east of Nashville, Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Do a little over 100 million a year in real estate. So around 120 million last year, about 400 closings with our average sales price. Actually expanded to 7 locations now. And so about 7 years in the business, at least with KW and in the general real estate world. So yeah.
You've been in real estate now how long?
So I got into real estate in 2004, working for a national home builder. I did on-site sales there for 8 years, and then made the transition over to general real estate. Thought it'd be easy. Seemed like a simple enough. I knew how to do real estate, but found out it was a different animal for sure.
Yeah, tell me about that. That's an interesting statement.
Yeah, so I remember, it's funny because most people get into real estate on a credit card and with no savings. And I thought, well, we saved up $50,000 and said, we're going to make the transition over. And, was very successful in on-site sales. And so we said, it's, still real estate. I underestimated the understanding of lead generation, right? How much value there is in working for a builder where there's advertising and people are just walking in the door for you. Right?
Yeah.
I remember 90 days in, my wife takes care of our children. And so we had 3 boys at home. And I remember looking at her after 90 days and going, we're just bleeding out our savings. And, I said, if I can't get this right in the next 30 days, I said, you're going to have to get a job and I'm going to have to go get a real job. And it was kind of come to fruition moment where we kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, we can do this, right? Like we can figure this out. And thankfully that month I did 1.6 million in sales that month, which bought us a little bit of time. Still month 5, month 6, we're a little shaky. And then I kind of got my feet under me. It was funny, I was struggling and actually started interviewing for the team leader role at the market center where I'm at now. The OP at the time had interviewed me. And she just said, look, you're a great fit for the team leader. If you want it, you can have it. She's like, but have you ever heard of what a rainmaker is? And I was like, no clue, right? She's like, let me fly you to Austin for a mega camp. She's like, I want you to hear this guy, Gary Keller, and what he has to say. And I just remember thinking like, man, you stole all my ideas. Like you spoke the language that the economic model, all the models. And I just thought like, this is really cool. And I just remember coming back on fire. Went and got a local gymnastics place who was coaching my kids. I didn't really know him. He was loud and boisterous, and I knew he had his license. And I just said to him, hey, I'm going to start a real estate team. You seem like a good guy. We made that decision in 10 minutes over a couple of beers at lunch. And he's now my director of sales.
called it? You had a couple of beers at lunch?
I know, right? I thought that was the point of real estate.
You're my kind of guy.
But it was, looking back, you know, people always ask, you know, we've been very blessed to get in business with some amazing talent. And, you know,
How soon was that into your business career?
that was 8 months.
Wow. You went right for it. So what was your aha that caused you to make that decision? What was the light bulb that came on that said that was the direction you were going to go, David?
I just remember seeing all these people on stage at Mega Camp and really listening and going, I can do that, right? One of the things that had made me so successful at on-site sales was I had learned that I needed X number of people to come through the door. I needed X number of people to tour the model. I needed X number of people to sit down and run numbers with me. And then, right, when I heard you talking about the economic model, I hadn't read the MREA book at that point. And I just remember thinking like, well, that's what I was doing in on-site sales. And so seeing all these people running teams, and it just so happened about that time that a local builder asked us to help him sell some houses. And we started having a lot of success for him. And so there was this opportunity to partner with some agents to put them in other models. And our initial goal in starting the team was just to be able to service this builder, right? To be able to sell his communities. And that went from, you know, he first gave me 2 listings, and then he said, can you handle 2 communities? And he said, can you handle the whole county? And eventually he just said, can you handle all of our business? That was a great partnership for several years for us and really led us to needing to build a team. Now, we did it the wrong way, right? I ran out and ended up getting a bunch of buyer's agents because I needed people in models. What we found was that there was a very profitable side business of all these people coming in that didn't necessarily want to buy that house, but were unrepresented. And so it ended up being our open houses. And so fast forward about a year, we hired people to sit in the models, and then Phil and I broke off and kind of started the Huffaker Group's resale division, right? And then started recognizing that all these listings and buyers that were coming our way started multiplying. And then it was at that point, I told this story to somebody yesterday. I got a MAPS coach almost immediately. And I remember Fritz asking me, David, what does it look like for you to step out of production? And I was probably 2 years in at this point into my career. And I just remember saying, like, Fritz, people don't really do that. Like, I get like it's in theory, it's written as one of the levels of the book, but I was like, that's not realistic. You know, and he said, well, I'm going to challenge you on that a little bit. How many people would it take to replace you? And I was like, well, in theory, it would take one person to replace me, you know, kind of joking. And then that week, my team leader connected me with Dana Hutton, who is absolutely the most phenomenal listing expert we've ever had or ever seen. Dana walks in, never done real estate before, come from a corporate background. I said, all right, you're spending the next 60 days with me, and then I'm giving you the keys and I'm walking away. From the listing side of the business, because that's all I had left there, at least I thought, right, at that point. And she, again, still with us. I think she's got 15 closings this month. So this, you know, a phenomenal agent.
Let me stop you for just a second. I love this conversation. A lot of people that would be listening to you and I right now would be going, hold it, David. Can you make money? I mean, is there profit? Can you have a net profit? Moving as fast as you did out of day-to-day and truly treating this like a business, because that's what you're doing. What I'm hearing you say is this was your aha, right? You looked at your personality, you looked at what your superpowers are and what they're not, and you drew a conclusion that this was the right path for you. But a lot of people are going to go, yeah, but he didn't make any money.
Well, I mean, I fell in love with the leadership side of the business. And I'll say that there are times where you look up and you go, it would be more profitable, yes, for me to stay in production. And yet, because of the conversation you and I had a few months ago, and when we started talking about cutting expenses, we're actually at a 33% net margin right now with me out of production, which is, you know, for most of us out of production, right? I think that 25 to 30, 25 is kind of my target.
Yeah, 30, above 30 is a big number.
Yeah. And I think that So yes, I mean, we average net, about 800 to, this year, I believe will be our first year that we actually do net $1 million, in that 12-month time frame. We're well ahead of pace in order to be able to do that. And so it is a trade-off, right? So can you make money? Yes, it does become a scalability, right? It's a lower net margin on a higher number.
You did it faster. I would have done the same thing, by the way. I mean, the fact that after a couple of years of sales, I went into management. Nobody had teams back, man, in 1979, right? 1980. Yeah. That didn't happen. No one thought like that.
Yeah.
Had I understood what you understood or been exposed to that, I think my life would look very different. Because I think I would have stepped out very quickly. Would have made less money because I'd be reinvesting it in other people doing the work.
Yeah.
But then I would have set a course for mastering how to succeed through others, which is that's your business story, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what, I mean, my passion, like to be able to see, for instance, Phil buy the house he wants and put his kids in the school he wants, and the agents that are in business with me and allow me to be a part of their world, to watch their lives grow and blossom, right? That's really that's rewarding to me. And you realize that, yes, it's maybe a lower net than if I was in production. The time it's bought back that's allowed me to, one, do what I love, which is pour into others, but two, the ancillary businesses that I've been able to become a part of, right? To be an OP now and own a couple of market centers, right? To invest in other businesses, to be able to build homes on my own and do some rental investments. I wouldn't have the time, right? So yes, the trade-off of money, you get the time back as long as you're wise and you're a business person and you're investing that time wisely. The money comes from other sources. And really, to grow a big business, finding talent full-time, that's a full-time job, right? It is difficult to find, those people to be in business with. As we've expanded, it's been an interesting, we just expanded January 1st outside of our Middle Tennessee area. And I didn't realize how much so one of the downsides, I guess, of expanding locally, we've kind of self-cannibalized because we didn't realize those are areas we might have serviced anyways from our hub. We launched in Clarksville and Cincinnati, Ohio, January 1st. Within 4 months, they were signing, their 4th month in, they did 14 and 16 agreements respectively. And both of them this month are closing 9 and 11 closings this month in those locations. Wow. So that's what, 6, we're at month 6, right? And so I realized like how well our systems and models worked when we expanded, especially when we went somewhere where we were, one agent, fresh start. It's just been really exciting, but getting those talented individuals, right, to partner with, it's a full-time job. And thankfully I have a great director of expansion who focuses on that exclusively. For the talent conversations.
So anybody that's listening to this conversation is going to then immediately want to ask, so what is it that you do that caused them to do what they did in those cities that you just opened?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest piece, our business is shifted. I always try to keep it 3 to 4 legs of a business, but I don't ever want to be heavy in any one place. We got away from builder, new construction, being a big piece of our business over the last few years. Specifically because we tried expanding and we realized like it was going to be a real challenge to expand and find a builder partner in each of these locations, right? Like it just wasn't duplicatable and scalable at the pace we wanted to go, right? So 50% of our business still coming from our database. And then us, focusing on technology, right? Technology has actually become about 30% of our business. Through social media, through paid ads, through driving people to our local websites. I don't actually love that it's that big of a piece of it because that's not a highly profitable leg. It's profitable, but obviously the database and the for sale bonus and expireds are, low cost, high return. However, we're finding through the database is really what drives us, right? Teaching, right? You've given me the opportunity to share with the company several times on how we run our database, and through teaching other agents how to do that and how to build it successfully, right? By organizing their client events for them, by making sure the newsletters go out for them, making sure the A-by-A's are happening for them automatically. We're just seeing this awareness and this return for them. that's just, and it excites them, right? I was coaching my expansion partner in Clarksville yesterday, and she said, you know, she's just got such a great attitude. She's like, David, before I joined this company, I'd never had $1 million month. She's like, now I'm having $1 million days and $1 million weeks, you know? And I go like, that's like, it's so exciting to hear that excitement in her voice. That's what she's able to do.
No, that's actually amazing. So so now you've led us into another avenue, and that is, so what's the secret to database success when you bring that up, David? Talk to me for just a second about that.
Man, if I could, I love coaching, especially like our agents and our market centers. And if we could just get people to do it, right? I don't think that the model is hard. It's just getting to engage and plug in when you write out the system.
So what do they do? What do they do? What is it that they, what's the, you're now teaching me, and this is the 1 minute explanation, Gary, how you're going to be successful through your database.
Yeah, so establish a solid 8x8, 4 items of value, 2 texts, 2 phone calls, right? We got to gain mind share through the 8x8, and then we got to retain mind share through, we do a 48 touch. You know, it's got to be a mixture of, you know, DTD2 phone calls. We do a text every 6 months. We're doing a monthly newsletter that goes out. We're exporting that database and uploading it as a target audience into Facebook so that we can place ads in their news feeds and place, you know, market statistics. We're just constantly keeping in front of them. And we've actually shifted away from the quarterly events and are actually doing smaller monthly events. Quarterly events, it felt like we were trying to fit 250 people into an event, and we're simultaneously broadcasting these from all locations, right? So there's some synergy when we're doing 3 to 5 events around the country at a time. But it became more like begging people to show up. So the smaller events have played out well because they sell out almost immediately. They're very cost effective. We can do them for $300 to $500. And we're really engaging, right? It's keeping that relationship with these folks. But as you build it, right? I believe the stat I heard for MMRA2 was what, 16 to 1. We run it about a 20 to 1. So for 240 people in a database, plug them into our system, let us communicate with them for you, make your phone calls once a quarter, we'll take care of everything else, yields 12 closings a year, right? So if I can get you, 960 people in a database communicated with systematically, what we call our core database, right? Allied Resources, Sphere, past clients, and what we call database followers, or people who've agreed to let us communicate with them.
Yes.
We're going to get 48 closings a year just from the database. And it's just such a good machine, right? I mean, you just plug them in and we're so confident that it works at this point that it's just business, right?
So talk to me about COVID-19 and any shifts that you in your business have had to do around that.
Yeah, so we tackled the virtual world pretty fast. Again, going back to talent, Phil, I was actually in Colorado when all of this kind of happened. And Phil, our director of sales, kind of rallied the troops, and he got all the agents together and just said, anybody that wants to be here when this is over is going to be here. Anybody that isn't willing to do the work is going to not be here. But we're going to put our head down and we're going to hit this thing head on, and we're going to make sure that we're stronger agents after this is over. And I commend him a lot for like immediately jumping into pulling everybody in and saying, hey, this is going to be disruptive. There's going to be a lot of stuff happen. We're going to put our head down and muscle our way through this. And I think like a lot of agents, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint conversation had to happen pretty fast, because 2 weeks in, we're exhausted, right? We're calling, rather than calling our database once a quarter, now we're trying to call everybody at least once a month, if not almost weekly at that point, just to check in. How can we help, right? What can we do?
That's right.
Having to shift and create virtual open houses. I love what Sarah Reynolds did with the on-demand appointments, right? Just holding the appointment right then if you can get them on a webinar. So I mean, doing all of that, but we looked up and said, no one, you may have said this, no one's the expert right now, right? Like all of a sudden, whoever wanted to be first and be vocal about it and share their story and share what they're doing on social media kind of became the virtual expert. And so we very quickly put together, we can do the entire transaction from start to finish 100% virtual. We even offer if you want to write a contract on a house without touring it, I'll have my media director go over and shoot it with a Matterport, and then I'll mail you a set of Oculus Go virtual reality headset so that you can walk through that house virtually if you choose to do that, right? So anything that we can do to try to help that virtual experience. What we learned as a business was that a great market hides non-talent, right? And it, it's been heartbreaking, I'll be honest, over the last, 3 months to have to get out of business with some partners or with some agents, because you just found, unfortunately, when you're at home, you can't really hide from lead generation. Yeah, I mean, we have Zoom calls in the morning where everybody lead generates together so we can see everybody. And there's just not a whole lot of place to make excuses when it's right there, right?
Oh, that's right. A crisis is just another word for exposure.
Yeah. Well, and
that's what it's going to do in the end. It's going to expose everything.
Yeah. Well, and we've been planning for a shift. I mean, I asked you last time we spoke, like, Gary, we've been saving up this money. Do we really have to cut expenses? Kind of planning for this, and I think you had a great answer. You just said, David, I've got reserves. Do you think I'm cutting expenses? And so I was like, okay, that's fair, Gary. So thankfully, we've also cut, which has helped us get to that 33% net margin. I mean, we cut $20,000 out of our budget pretty fast.
Wow.
Which is amazing when you look back and realize how much you really don't have to spend.
Yeah, that you had 20,000 that you actually go ahead and move forward without, right? It's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, we've had our best 3 months ever have been these last 3 months. This month in June, we are almost 40% higher in closings and profit than our best month ever.
Now, that's remarkable, by the way. And everything that you've said that you did quickly is absolutely what caused that. What do you think is going to happen? Let's just talk about your business, not the world. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen for your business this year? Do you think this continues? You think something else is going to happen? What do you think?
I think what we've learned is no matter what happens, we're going to adjust and find a way to be genuine to the people that we're allowed to have relationships with, and continue to run a business and just be human with each other, right? The indicator, I was talking to Coach Sajik yesterday, and I kind of said, the funny thing is we're not really doing anything special, right? I told him, I was like, I'm talking to Gary, and I wish I had this like silver bullet to say, like, we did X and it really made a difference. The main thing we did was that we really got focused on agreements gained and just kept our eyes on the metric. Our goal in April was to get 100 agreements gained. While all that was going on, we ended up getting 87. But that's what's fed our best month now in June. And so just keeping our eye on that. So I guess independent of what happens over the next 3 to 6 months or 3 to 6 years, keeping our head down, that people are still going to be moving, right? One way or the other.
Oh, absolutely. The interesting thing about our industry is it doesn't go away. Now, it may boom, it may not boom, but it doesn't go to zero. Someone's going to buy and sell real estate. Everybody did that. Somebody's going to do that in your market.
We talk about in a shift that, in the past, we've seen the board, right, drop usually about 30%. I know that's, kind of one of the indicators is agent count. I guess in theory, agents may not be getting out of the business right now, but yet they stopped doing business. A lot of agents stopped doing it. So there wasn't necessarily a board number that dropped, but all of a sudden we saw like people that chose to just wait it out or sit on the sidelines. We said we can go take territory right now.
Very predictable.
Yeah.
I witnessed that in 1979 when I was my first 6 months in the business. Rates go to 18%, interest rates go to 18%. And man, they went to the couch, David. I was just shocked because to me, I'm just kind of a grinder, right? I mean, it's a job, so I get up every day and I'm going to put in my hours doing something. It's not an option, and I'm looking around and these people are going, no, I'm going to wait till it comes back. I'm going to wait till it's good again. I'm going to wait, and I'm going, holy moly, right? And I think most of those people ended up getting out of the business.
Yeah, that was a red flag for me, especially the first 6 weeks was when I would hear anyone say when this is over, like I would kind of stop and go, wait. Like there is, like, you cannot have a win this is over mentality, because we just don't, and look what's happened, right? One thing's led to another. It's like Jumanji. It's just another level every month. Something crazy happens. And we just don't know what's going to happen, right? We got to keep at it.
No, you can't wait. It could get worse. It could get better.
Yeah.
They call it economic cycles for a reason, which means our whole life will be defined by highs and lows. It'll literally be defined by peaks and valleys. And you don't want to work during the peak and then go sit on the couch in the valley, because you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
You're going to have to fight. That's right.
Unattractive. I don't know about unattractive, but what is it? Tim Hyle said one time, like, you got to be boredom, or you got to be.
He's with the boredom.
Yeah, the boredom of success, right? And it's the consistency over time, right? It's base hits, not home runs, and so it's that consistency. The market's up, the market's down. It's not as fun for us as entrepreneurs. We like that thrill a lot of times, and that's where you got to be at peace with the boredom of success. That's what.
Well, you do, because success is built off of repetition.
Yeah.
And people get bored with the idea of repetition, so they look up, and if you don't make peace with that and find fun in that and find ways to find enjoyment with being consistent, you're going to struggle in your life at everything. You'll not master anything, because mastery only comes from consistency. That's it.
Well, that's what I love about this, and you've given us that opportunity.
Yeah. So last question, that is, who are you listening to right now? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? What's in your head over here right now?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time with Good to Great, right? Going back to Jim Collins, Good to Great, and How the Mighty Fall. We've been focused on those. Obviously, you and Jay and Jason Abrams spent a lot of time with the Pivot, Facebook group. The peers, it's a balance, right? You got to be able to filter it out. But and love listening to the women on the Empire Builder podcast, right? They've done some amazing things. I think a lot of them. And, a lot of them are blazing some trails, and I'm just trying to learn as much as I can from everyone to get my piece of the world.
Yes, a lot of great podcasts out there, right? It's becoming one of the avenues of choice, because it's easily digestible.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Love it.
All right, man. Thank you. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, so here's a couple of things that I took away from that, and then I want to hear from you guys what you took away. There's 3 to 4 legs he mentioned of his business. And the number one most important part that he talked about was the database. He said about 50% of their business comes from that database alone. And then he also mentioned that 30% comes from them growing their database through technology. Now, you have so many different options to grow your database through technology, whether that's Facebook groups that you're part of, whether that's you using campaigns and command to grow your database through targeted leads for communities, whether that's you running ads directly through Facebook, whatever it is, there's so many different ways that you can utilize to grow your database through technology. And then he also mentioned for sale by owners and expireds. Now, here's something that I want to encourage you to go and look at. So many people look at expireds and say, gosh, well, if I don't call them first thing in the morning that it expires, there's no chance in me getting it, or those people don't really want to talk to me. Well, here's the strategy that you can use for sale by owners and expireds that works really well. Look at those people who didn't relist right away. Look at those people who their home maybe expired 3 months ago. Or better yet, this time last year is when they listed it, and then it expired 6 months ago, or it expired 9 months ago. And reach back out and have those conversations with those people, because there was a reason that they wanted to sell their home. It expiring doesn't mean that they don't want to sell their home anymore. It just means that they had the wrong person at the wrong time who wasn't able to help them get their home sold. This can be an amazing place for you to go and build your database. Now, is that information going to be available to you at the click of a button in the MLS? No, you're going to have to do a little bit of digging to find out the phone number, email address of that person. Another way you could do it is by going and knocking on the door, or putting a packet together and just dropping it off at the house, and finding a way to follow up with them that way. Or, we live in the technology realm as well. Add them on Facebook. Reach out to them and say, hey, I saw that you had your house listed at one point in time. I've got people who are looking for homes in that area, and I was wondering if you still might be interested in selling. This is the greatest opportunity that we have right now to go and pick up listings. Like we talked about last week, prices are up 6% nationally. Here in the Fort Worth area, they're up a little bit higher than that. In Atlanta, they're up higher than that. In California, some places in Southern California, blows my mind, they're up 12 to 15% from where they were last year. And so going and having those conversations with people who wanted to sell their home, weren't able to because maybe they priced it too high, maybe they had unrealistic expectations. Their house may be where they expected it to be around this time last year. So that can be an opportunity for you. The other thing that he talked about was this 8x8. And what he said is it's 4 items of value, 2 text messages, and 2 phone calls. So that is really a big secret to what their success as a group is immediately putting people on some kind of a system like that. Now, a lot of times people think 4 items of value. Well, gosh, that means I'm going to have to go and buy marketing materials. I'm going to have to go and buy, those little jar openers that got my logo on them. No, forget all that stuff. An item of value can be you sending them a newsletter about the community. It can be you sending them an article about what's going on in their community. It can be you sending them, hey, here's the events that we have coming up in the community. And if you're building a database in a certain community, let's say that you have a farm that you're looking to build, an item of value that you could build for those people, which a lot of people overlook, is simply, hey, are you too busy to cook dinner tonight? Here's a list of all of the places that deliver to our neighborhood. And I've seen a lot of people have massive success with that because that's something that ends up on the refrigerator, especially in new communities where they're maybe a little bit further out and they don't know all the places that deliver to that area. So don't overthink it. Find things that you would find value in receiving. A big thing right now is what's going on in local economies, or here's some new businesses that have opened recently, or here's a great new place that you might consider going and trying. Those are items of value. So don't overthink it. And then he said this, they have a 48 touch plan, which means that only 4 weeks out of the year, their database isn't receiving something from them. So only 4 weeks out of the year. Now, if you go into Command and you choose all of the different smart plans that are available, because inside of Command now, you've got almost anybody who wants to upload smart plans in there can do it. You can go and find elements to create a 48-step smart plan inside of Command now. If you're not using Command and you're using MailChimp, go and find other resources for people who have created those. If you want to export some of the stuff out of Command and into MailChimp, you can do that as well to create your own system. Yet inside of Command, it's already there. So don't reinvent the wheel, just keep doing it. And then he also said, we're not really doing anything special. We're focusing on people and we're focusing on relationships, which leads me to this point. There's an acronym that I want to give you. It's RER, relationships, experience, referrals. So number one, the most important thing for you is relationships, which means building, maintaining, and growing the current relationships that you already have. And then when we get to the experience side of things, that's where that touch program comes in. That's where those phone calls come in. That's where those text messages come in, because their experience with you is beneficial to them. They're getting value out of the relationship that you have with them. And without the relationships and the experience, you can't ever get to a place where you have the referrals. So those two pieces right there are important. And he said, you've also got to focus on creating some kind of a virtual experience. He mentioned that they do client events, and that actually their client events have come down in cost because they've gone to a more digital experience. So Client events don't have to be anything crazy. They could be something as simple as you finding a local business owner and interviewing them about their business. They could be you doing a buyer's seminar and having conversations with a lender, a title company, a inspection company, and just getting them, helping them to get educated on what the process looks like, especially if you have people marked in your database as first-time home buyer or wants to buy their first home, things like that. Those can be really beneficial to them. And then you could also, for the people who you have in your database who have never considered refinancing, now is an amazing opportunity for people to refinance. If you were to bring on a lender to talk about that and to tell them what the process looks like, because a lot of people think that refinancing is a completely overwhelming process. And in all reality, it's not as complicated as most people make it seem. So letting your database know that that's an opportunity for them, and then bringing in somebody to share with them what that experience truly looks like. And that could be you interviewing them one-on-one and inviting your clients to do a Zoom, or it could be you just interviewing that person and then sending it out to all of your clients who you've already closed the transaction with, so they know, hey, this is an option for me. It could save people, depending on the price of their home, $500, $600. It could save them, you know, if it's a lesser expensive home, it might be $100, $150, but that's a lot of money every single month to put towards something that they really care about. So I want to go to you guys. What did you hear? What did you take away from the interview that Gary did with David Huffaker? Anyone?
I'll share. Mind share now leads to market share later. And then success is built off of repetition, and you just have to, it's time on task over time and making peace with it and finding some enjoyment in it too.
Yeah, that's the thing. He said you've got to find peace with the everyday tasks and doing the same thing over and over and over again. And if you go back and you listen, Erica, to what he said at the very beginning, did you hear him say that his first 90 days, he really thought that they were just draining their savings? And then that fourth month where they were really struggling, he closed, I think it was $1.3 million in sales.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works, right? Because what we do today shows up for us in 60 to 90 days. So
Exactly. Okay, great. Thank you, Erica. Anyone else? Don't all go at once.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
I really liked how he spoke about market share, about how this could be your opportunity to take market share when agents have kind of, you know, waiting, quote unquote, for things to be over. This is the time. They said at MegaCamp, 54% is up for grabs right now. So
Big time, Alicia. Big time. And he also said this: you can't have a when this is over mentality. Look, back in March, we went into 2 weeks to slow the spread. I think we're at day 200 right now. So we can't have a when this is over mentality, because if we do, we're going to miss out on so many different opportunities out there. So for example, I was on a coaching call with one of my clients the other day, and I asked him, because we were talking about his goals, and he was having some trouble figuring out what his goals were going to be, because he likes to have a lot of experiences and things with his family. And he said, you know, we really can't do those right now. We're going to have to do that. And the words were, when this is all over. And I was like, hold on a second. Hold on. You got right now. We literally have this moment. And in Quantum Leap, I want to encourage you guys to go and take that class, because in the Quantum Leap class, it talks about how, you know, a lot of people have this someday mentality. And the someday mentality means that I'm going to work like crazy right now, and one day I'm going to be able to enjoy all of the things that I've worked for. Well, what happens if you never get there? What happens if life gets in the way and you're not able to do the things that you wanted to be able to do because you got in an accident or something like that? It gets real. So we have right now, we have this moment. There's never been a greater time to go and take market share because so many agents out there have the mindset of, well, gosh, people don't want to sell their home right now. I want to see what's going to happen. They want to see what's going to happen. So I'm just going to wait. Well, the reason that we have such a low inventory right now is because so many people chose to just sit and wait. And by them sitting and waiting, that gave the consumers the belief that, maybe now's not the right time to sell. The data that we have shows exactly the opposite. There's never been a greater time to list your home because you can sell it for more money than you could even this time last year. So Alicia, thank you so much for sharing that. You are on point. All right, one more.
I wrote down a crisis is another word for exposure. So weak agents and weak practices will be exposed.
Yeah. What does that mean to you?
I think it means that if I'm going to use like virtual open houses, for example, if you just did the minimum when it came to open houses, you had your steady routine that you did, you weren't open to change. And if you continue to do that during COVID, you wouldn't have anything to do because we couldn't do those. You had to pivot. You had to learn how to do the virtual open house. And there was a great mastermind that I sat in on where some of the top agents who were doing them said, we don't know what we're doing. We're just trying new things. Yeah. Nobody knows how to do this. Get out there and be the first to conquer it.
Exactly. 100%. So, and he also said that if they need to have an experience and they need it to be virtual, he's going to find somebody to go out and create that virtual opportunity for them to be able to preview that home. And that's one of the things that the head of Google said at the head of industry for Google for the real estate experience said at MegaCamp was that so many people, well, he said it's basically broken down into a third, and a third. A third of people have said, we're really not going to be comfortable going back and doing things that we did before for at least 18 months. Another third of people said it's probably going to be 6 to 12 months. And another third of people said, heck, we never stopped doing what we were doing before. We're jumping right back in as if nothing's ever happened. So we've got 3 different sets of consumers that we really have to find a way to connect with, which means that we're going to have to do things a little bit differently. And going back to that, we can't have the when this is over mentality, because if we have the when this is over mentality, do you have in reserves the money to be able to hold you over for 18 months if you're going to wait that long? Because that's where we are. We thought we were going into a 2 weeks to slow the spread. Now we're at 200 days. And chances are family reunion is going to be a digital experience as well. And we're like, that's in February. So we're another 180 days away from that right now. So what I want you to take away today is don't overcomplicate it. Just be in relationships with people. Do things that are, it's going to feel mundane, and it's important to keep it happening. So here's the action item that I want you to have for this week. Go and figure out what an 8x8 can look like for you. Those 4 items of value, and then just 2 texts and 2 phone calls. And don't just do 4 items of value right at the beginning and then 2 texts and 2 phone calls in that order. Maybe it's a call to start off with, and then an item of value, and then a text, and then a call, and then an item of value, and then a text. Break it up. And what the intention is that in the 8x8, if you go and look at what the MREA says, that's going to be over an 8-week process. And then once you've gone through the 8x8 with the new people that you're meeting, then you move into the regular portion of your database and you just put them on a campaign. So this week, go and figure out what your 8x8 is going to look like, and then make sure that you're making your 20 contacts a day, or wherever you're at on your incremental growth, and then 3 new people added to your database every single day. If there's anything that I can do to serve you the rest of the week, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone.